Hey, we've got breaking news on this edition of Dolphins Today. That's right, you knew coaching staff changes and restructuring were on the horizon for the Miami Dolphins when they announced the first hiring of Anthony Weaver as the new defensive coordinator. But he's beginning to put together his defensive coaching staff, and that includes the Miami Dolphins announcing today that they have hired the former Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator, Joe Barry, as their new run game coordinator. He'll also coach the linebackers. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. First with the stories. The Dolphins are hiring former Packers defensive coordinator Joe Barry as their linebackers coach and run game coordinator. And when you look at the resume for Joe Barry, there's a lot to include because he brings a wealth of experience. He's been in the NFL since 2000, where he began his coaching career in the NFL ranks with the 49ers. And we'll start with the most recent history, the defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers the past 3 seasons. And remember, this is a Green Bay Packers team that became the first team in NFL history as the 7th seed to upset the number 2 seed in the NFL. And even you could make the case they had the Niners on the ropes in that second round game as well before eventually falling. But Packers were 17th in total defense under Barry, and probably the highlight of his coaching tenure all the way back in 2001. Remember that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that won the Super Bowl with that iconic defense. He was the linebackers coach under Monty Kiffin there. And we will add one more thing. He was the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions in 2008 when they didn't win a game. But hey, let's focus on that Super Bowl winning staff. And as always, when we've got breaking news for the Miami Dolphins, we've got you covered from every single angle, covering the aqua and orange. That's why you subscribe, so help us continue to grow. And oh, by the way, set up your notifications so you don't miss a thing like today's breaking news with the Dolphins hiring Joe Barry as their linebacker and run game coordinator. Now, that's the good news. The bad news, as always, I'm going to be 100% transparent with you. Right now, I don't really love the hire, and I know what you're saying. Pump the brakes, Reetma, relax a little bit. Here we are in February. Give it time to gel and let the cohesiveness form, and we'll see what it looks like in the fall. But my initial reaction, and I kind of saw the writing on the wall with this one, obviously replacing Anthony Campanile at the linebacker and coaching position. And Campanile, a guy that has interviewed for the defensive coordinator job for the Dolphins in back-to-back years and being denied in back-to-back years, you can understand why he doesn't necessarily need to be on the staff moving forward for the Miami Dolphins and why it was best for the two to part ways. Now, more on that in a moment, but again, Joe Barry brings a wealth of experience. He's obviously been a guy that's been around the block, been in the NFL since 2000, so you understand the line of thinking here for Mike McDaniel, Chris Greer, the entire Dolphins front office as an organization. So pull out your red pen and let me know what you think of the hire. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, so let me know down in the comments. Grade the hire, A, B, C, D, or F, and I'll give you my grade right now. I'll go B minus, C plus, because it just doesn't really fire me up. But again, I know, relax, Reetma. It is February. So as I mentioned, though, the obvious kind of writing on the wall with this hire means Anthony Campanile is no longer a part of the Miami Dolphins coaching staff, and Barry Jackson, one of the best in the business, confirming this with Joe Barry joining the Dolphins as linebackers coach. We're told Anthony Campanile will not return to the team, confirmed by our own Daniel Oyosa. Campanile moves on after interviewing twice for the Dolphins defensive coordinator job, but being denied both times. And that's exactly what I was mentioning, because you think as a guy that kind of proved himself under multiple staffs in Miami on the defensive side of things that he would be afforded at least, and he was afforded the opportunity to interview, but ultimately didn't land it, and there could be a number of reasons why he didn't land the job. But Dolphins linebackers coach since 2020 and has a lot of experience in the college ranks, including Boston College, and that's kind of where the rumors are hot, with Boston College needing to fill their coaching vacancies. Perhaps he could be on the move to Boston College with his past history there. And a lot of people, myself included, really got on the Anthony Campanile bandwagon during Hard Knocks when he motivated the guys. You saw the level of commitment and chemistry amongst the players with the coach. And hey, how about that speech he gave where he talked about the universal language of whoop-ass? Who doesn't love that? And he fired the guys up. They had one of their best practices, best week of practices, when he was kind of motivating each and every one of them. And what did we say about Vic Fangio? He kind of lost the ability to relate to the players And you got to believe that Anthony Campanile kind of bridged that gap between defensive coordinator and the players. And I think being as part of a coaching staff where you see Anthony Campanile continue to grow, and ultimately not reach the top of the defense as the coordinator, it makes sense that he's on the way out. Now, I loved what Campanile brought to the coaching staff. I think he brought an edge. And unfortunately, it didn't always translate to the players because that's what we said about this Dolphins defense. They really lacked that edge. So maybe it was just all for the cameras on Hard Knocks. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Will the Dolphins regret letting Anthony Campanile go? Type Y for yes and N for no, because I think in the National Football League, we all know how important it is to have the ability as a coaching staff to get the most out of your players. I really felt like Campanile showed the ability to do that. Now, coming up, we'll continue to break down this hire and bring you more information on Joe Barry. But first, I want to give a huge shout out to today's presenting sponsor, the one and only PrizePicks. And that's right, you know how to play PrizePicks. You simply pick more or less on a player's projected stat line, and you know the big game's coming up. So we've got some awesome picks for you. You can fade me, you can join me, whatever it is. But with the big game coming up, there's some awesome promotions on PrizePicks. You got to go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. And if you're a new customer, don't worry. We've got a $100 deposit match waiting for you when you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. And part of those awesome promotions about Patrick Mahomes passing for more than just a half passing yards. I feel pretty good about that one. Isaiah Pacheco, he has been on a tear. I'm going with more on his projected touchdown total. All he has to do is find Pater one time, and I believe he can do that. And Christian McCaffrey, we know how talented of a player he is on both sides of, or as receiving and as running the ball, so I'm picking more on that as well. Go ahead and find out for yourself at prizepicks.com/CLNS. And as I mentioned, we've got a $100 deposit match for you. And Rima, how do I get there? Well, don't worry. We love you and we care about you. So we'll put that link right in the comments and description of today's video. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Now, this is a little bit of a unique situation with the Miami Dolphins because the head coach remains the same and the offensive regime remains the same because Frank Smith, remember, the offensive coordinator, was kind of rumored to get some head coaching buzz, but ultimately, as of now, will remain as the offensive coordinator. So on the offensive side of things, things remain cohesive. They remain consistent. But on the defensive side of things, we are undergoing some significant changes. And obviously, anytime you've got the defensive coordinator making his way on out of town, there's going to be a trickle-down effect. And Joe Kasper, the safeties coach or former safeties coach for the Dolphins, is also on his way to Philadelphia. And we told you about Anthony Campanile, the linebackers coach. He's on his way out. So 3 noteworthy changes on the defensive side of things, but out with the old and in with the new. The Dolphins welcome in Anthony Weaver as the new defensive coordinator. Announced today, Joe Barry will be the linebackers coach, and yet to hire a safeties coach. And, you know, when the Dolphins do hire a safeties coach, we'll have all the latest on that. That is why you subscribe. But it's also an exciting time when you think of where this team struggled at times, and perhaps with a new defensive coaching regime, ways to improve on the defensive side of the ball. And with Joe Barry becomes, I mentioned the wealth of experience, but not most recently, because most recently he was the defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers, but another career highlight from Joe Barry, 2020, that Rams defense that was the best in the NFL, stout at every level. He was the linebackers coach and associate head coach under Kevin McVay. So with that said, he obviously coached Jalen Ramsey as well. And you think about the connection that you got to have with your star players, especially a player like Jalen Ramsey that can be a game changer. You feel good about what he could potentially bring to the staff for the Miami Dolphins. So Joe Barry, your new linebackers coach and run game coordinator for the Miami Dolphins and a Super Bowl champion in 2021. Again, the hire didn't exactly make me jump for joy and come firing out of bed, ready to go, because I loved Anthony Campanile, but I understand that it's all about progression. It's all about trying to reach your absolute best. Mike McDaniel talks about that all the time, so perhaps this move will help lead the Dolphins to that in the coming seasons. And as always, we remind you, this is why you subscribe to Dolphins Today. up, down, left, right, whatever it is, we're bringing you it all on the Miami Dolphins. So subscribe, help us continue to grow our channel, the largest independently run Dolphins channel and community on YouTube. Hey, I want to give a huge shout out to the one and only Jeffrey Cooperstein on the ones and twos producing today's show. Couldn't do it without him. Shout out to him. And as always, thanks so much for tuning in. And we'll see you next time on Dolphins Today.